through the timing that was allotted for Joseph to deposit into Jesus, Jesus was able to be prepared to execute the work of the Lord while he was here on earth. We recognize that he was transitioned early, for one, because he had served his purpose already. He did what he was supposed to do with the time that he had with Jesus. Secondly, what Joseph did, or I would say, he probably was removed from the situation because the Lord had a timetable for his timing for Jesus to come to do what he came here to do for us. Amen. The time that the Lord had for his timetable, for the Lord's timetable, he needed Joseph to work within that timetable with Jesus so that Jesus can ultimately do what he came to do for us, which was to die for us, to lay his life down so that we can be redeemed. Amen. Now in John chapter 9, verse 4 and 5, we read this earlier, but we're going to read this one more time in reference to the timing part. John chapter 9, verses 4 through 5, it says, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So the Lord knew that his timing was short. He knew there was no time to waste. The big picture here that the Lord's trying to show us, that if Jesus had not laid his life down for us at that time, you and I would not be in the place where the Lord needs us to be in this very moment in God's time. Amen.
Amen.
If Jesus did not lay his life down at that particular time, when it was time for him to lay his life down, you and I, in this very moment, this time, we will not be in the place where the Lord wants us to be at now. So that timing was important. We talk about God's eternal timing. If you are willing to serve the Lord and do his will, the Lord will either allow someone or something to be removed from your life. And if you want to move forward, especially if you're not moving on your own, the Lord's going to cause something to happen for you to move. And the last thing you don't want to mess with God's timing by just sitting and wasting it. Because the Lord's going to allow something to happen to push you to where you need to go, especially if he is calling you.
Yes.
Amen?
Amen.
So this is very important. We talk about God's timing. Jesus put himself in position to learn from a man of flesh and bone.
Yeah.
So there's no leader. No leader should never ever feel as if they cannot learn for someone who don't have the same title.
All right, go ahead. Amen.
That is complete foolishness to think you cannot learn from someone, because anybody can learn anything from someone. I learned a lot of things from winos in the street growing up.
All right.
No church gentlemen, but they recognized God, but they had wisdom.
Yes.
So sometimes when someone is going to give you some advice, especially to our leaders, if someone give you advice, you better listen.
Amen.
Because the Lord can use anyone to get his word out to anyone. Amen.
Yes.
Now, due to the trauma that Jesus experienced of sustaining and witnessing the death of a parent, growing up in a single parent home, having to work at an early age to provide for his family, these situations right here could have caused Jesus to not know what ability, or better yet, will probably cause Jesus to think that he couldn't exercise what he came to earth to do, because he had so much responsibility at a young age because Joseph had transitioned. That could have happened, because we see this today. A lot of young men, a lot of young women, they're raised in a single parent home, and sometimes their parents will have to pull on them, and then a lot of times you see them missing their childhood, a lot of things they're experiencing that most kids will experience, they're not experiencing. And that could cause all kinds of problems for them when they got older because of their early responsibility. Amen?
Amen.
Now, there's some that had grew up in places that had two-parent household, had a good life, and grew up with love. But that too can go the wrong way. And that can create what we all know as entitlement.
Yes.
That can become a major problem as well. So no situation, growing up in a loving home, growing up as with a single parent, no formula is considered, oh, that's the best way, because anybody can change from that. And we recognize that today. But Jesus, like many of us who had to go through early trauma used that early trauma to push them to where they needed to go.
That's good.
That's
Amen.
it. Amen.
Jesus used it. And if Joseph did not do what he had to do at the time that he had to deposit into Jesus, God's timing for us probably would have been effective. Amen. We're talking about God's eternal timing. How things had to be aligned with his timing and how Joseph used that timing. Did the Lord need Joseph? No. He didn't need Joseph. He didn't need him to do it. You know, could Jesus been able to exercise or operate in the flesh without no assistance from man? Of course he could. That's the Lord. He can do anything he wants. He could have. But Jesus chose. This is the part that stands out so awesome. That Jesus chose to be the example for us by listening and learning from Joseph, someone of influence, so that we can be able to live and to help establish that foundation on the earth for Christ. That's what Jesus was able to do. He chose this way to receive and learn from a man so that he can be able to exercise what he needed to do to help build God's foundation on earth. Amen.
Amen.
Whatever instructions from the Lord is given to us, act on it.
Amen.
Like Jesus did, because Jesus recognized and knew that the timing was important. Timing was important. When we refuse to follow godly instructions for our lives and we think that we know it all, we are wasting your time. You are wasting your time when you think that you know it all and you're not receiving the instructions from the Lord. You will either prolong your purpose in life or you will never ever accomplish what the Lord wants you to do.
My Lord.
When we're not following the instructions, when we're not taking it serious, and when we are wasting time. You see, Joseph did not waste the time that he had with Jesus because he didn't have a lot of time. He didn't have a lot of time. So he didn't waste no time with the time that he had with the Lord. And in essence, the Lord didn't waste his time because he knew that his time was limited as well. So with the work ethic, protection, everything that Joseph had done, being obedient, all that stuff, being consistent in his teaching, all these foundations that he had laid out for Jesus, Jesus was able to use this in his ministry and was able to operate in the little bit of timing that he had to set things up for the Lord's eternal timing for us. The Lord Almighty placed himself at a lesser being to learn from someone in flesh. And at the right time, Jesus was able to come on earth, learn what he got from Joseph, learn how to be a leader, how to lead his disciples, and then at the right time, laid his life down for us to ultimately provide redemption for us. If Joseph did not do his job in being an example for Jesus, all he would have done was probably prolong God's timing, his eternal timing for us. The Lord picked the right man in Joseph because Joseph was a part of God's perfect timing for Jesus to come at the time that he came, to lay his life down for us so that we can be in a proper standing in God's proper timing that he will have for us, setting us up eternally. Amen.
Amen.